I'd like to start the Will County Finance Committee meeting, call it to order at 10 o'clock. And Perla, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have our, 1 second. And then just leave yours on, Perla, okay? You're good to go, just leave it on, okay? I'd like, can I have a roll call, please, Perla?
Muquist,
Here.
Berkowitz, Diaz,
Here.
Logan, Parker,
Here.
Revis, Richmond.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. So thank you, everybody, for coming out today for the special meeting. I know we had a couple of them scheduled for finance for this year to get through this budget process. This is the culmination of everything. What I want to do, though, is I want to go down to new business first. And first item up will be, Rashawn, the transferring appropriations within various county budgets. Can I get a motion? Roll call, please. Or, yeah,
Yes.
Berkowitz, Diaz,
Yes.
Logan, Parker,
Yes.
Revis,
yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next line item up is number 2, the fiscal year 2025 budget. I did put together some slides so we could go through these. I know we had a little bit of a discussion last time, but be more than happy to go through any of these details. So if you look at on the right-hand side of the screen, that's a quadrant. It's by Milton Friedman. It talks about how money is spent. I try and spend most of my time in that upper left-hand corner. Occasionally, I drop into other quadrants, but for this exercise, I tried to spend as much time in that upper left-hand quadrant as possible. So some highlights on the budget. I know I've had questions. In the budget that I'm about to lay out for us, there's no cuts in staff. There's no cuts in service. All employees' pay raises are funded. And there's $300,000 in the old courthouse budget that wasn't in the original budget. So those are just some of the highlights, and I'd be more than happy to go through what I've found working with staff in that. And if we could just go to second slide.
I have a question also.
All right, Sherry first.
I'm kind of disappointed. I thought the whole purpose of this meeting from the last meeting was that we were going to get your budget, your proposed budget ahead of time so that we could go over it and ask questions and be really transparent today. And I don't feel like just going through this on the fly is something that I could vote on right now, Jim. I mean,
We can have another meeting after this. I'm fine with that. You know what?
well, then
That-
that's what I would prefer.
And that's
Thank
what we'll
you.
do. And that, you know what, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through this. I think I've been transparent. I don't believe that anybody has asked any questions of staff, have very few questions asked of me. I've put a lot of time and effort into this, and I've outlined the things that no staff is being cut, no services are being cut, and it's a matter of moving some funds around in that. So I'd be more than happy to go through this right now. So
I know you spent a lot of time on this. And I appreciate that. It's just, I want the ability to be able to go over it and ask my own questions.
we can
Which-
go over this all day today because I don't have to be anywhere till tomorrow. So I've got plenty of time.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jim. I only had 2 real questions. One, when you say no cuts to staff, does that include funding any new, and I don't recall exactly, but I feel like there were some new employees put into the budget.
That's-
So they're included.
They're included. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm not,
No,
I
I,
appreciate, I've been the
You-
chair of finance just one time, but it was Fairly stressful, trying to make sure that everybody's questions were answered and so forth. And
And
I get how difficult this is.
no, I appreciate that, Jackie.
And-
And you know, it's not an easy job and
Nope.
it's not an easy task.
No.
And our budget is still increasing
Mhm.
year over year from last year.
Mhm.
So it's not like we made cuts and, you know,
No,
yeah, I'm just explaining to everybody. I mean, you and I are talking,
Same
but
philosophy you do is economize and seek highest value. I mean,
Yeah.
I do. And I am one cheap person because, well, I owned my own business for 19 years and I know what it's like to try to get things done without enough money. So I get it. And then my other question was just the 300,000 for the old courthouse property. Was this savings from the demolition or something? I can't,
so the demolition money is going to all expire this year.
right.
This is net new money that we're putting in for the courthouse.
Oh, so this is to make the park. Okay.
Make the
That-
park, yes.
That's my only question,
no.
because I couldn't attend last week. I
No,
was
that's-
out of the country, so.
That's perfectly fine. I appreciate the questions, but what I'd like to do is kind of go through this.
Yeah.
And then if you have questions, just jot them down and then, and you know what? I tell you what, Marcy, do you want to just come up here? Because this way might defer some of these questions to you. Because I don't ever want to give out misinformation or bad information. But I think as we step through this here, and Rashawn, you're more than welcome to too. I mean, but, all right, we go slide 2.
And I actually brought my iPad with me on my vacation because I was hoping to see this.
Okay,
I had a very long plane ride home.
So-
And could have looked at all of this, but there was no attachment.
so part of the challenge too is on, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, we found out that our real property tax or real personal replacement person,
Yeah, we always
right.
get that late.
yeah,
Yeah.
came in with a negative $2 million. So as of Friday and over the weekend, I had to shift gears very
Uh-huh.
quickly
Okay.
and make a lot of adjustments. So
Sure.
would I have liked to have given this out ahead of time? Absolutely. But when the state goes and changes something to the tune of $2 million, it all of a sudden really messes everything
Mhm.
up.
No, I
plans.
remember last year, we got a whole bunch of extra money we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And they told us it was going to go down going forward, so.
So we're at a proposed budget of $2 million, or I'm so 0.20, and there's the numbers for 1% as well as 0.75. If you could skip to the next slide, that'd be great. Yes.
All three?
Can you make that view a little smaller? I think we need one. Oh, got it? Okay. All right, so if we start at the top, this is probably easier for me to look at this way. So the draft budget was an increase over the previous year of $4.7 million. And I am going to round just a little bit because I don't need to read out all these. The proposed changes is going to be to $2.8 million, a differential of $1.9 million. Funds on hand went from $91 million. We found out that we have $2.2 million. So the differential, we're at a positive $2.2 million. The FEMA carryover is $1.2 million. So from there, then we lost the $2 million on the PPRT. We went from 5.7 million to 3.7 million. So that's at $2 million. So now we're at a deficit of $1.7 million for us to get to our proposed budget. So now what we can do is we can step through the first things where it says on the expense side. The expense side, number 1, those are for the Sunny Hill. The beds, $200,000. What we're going to do is we're going to change their budget, reduce it to 0. But what we're going to do is we're going to use ARPA dollars to pay off, to pay for those. All right, so as you can see now, it's just a matter of we're moving monies from one pile to the other pile with no cuts. The bed tax was listed at $420,000. Let me grab my notes here because I have some specific notes on these. Oh, here it is here.
Jim, do you want us to interrupt your questions or wait until the end?
Maybe just jot it down to the very end, and that would be great. So the bed tax reduction, it averages out to be about $24,500. We budgeted $26,670 dollars, not the $35,000 that was in the proposed budget, thus saving us $100,000. And there still is a 10% buffer in that number for number 2. Number three, the HR project was budgeted at $2 million. That's going to come in at about $1.6 million, thus a $400,000 savings. Rent savings of $100,000 for all properties in Joliet, so we reduced that line item accordingly. The RVJC, we moved that lot project over from capital and moved that into the capital fund. Number six, the ICT crack unit, $70,000. We moved that into the facilities equipment replacement fund. Now, here's the only thing that I mean, if I do know anything, I know data centers. That is a relic from the 80s. And I think investing $70,000 in that place we should be looking at consolidating that, moving it to someplace else and getting rid of the Halon systems and all that kind of stuff. I think if we were to probably do some kind of assessment on that, and I've done assessments on data centers, I think enough said on that, but I believe spending $70,000, it's allocated in the budget here, but I think what we should do is take a deeper dive on that data center because it's just not up to par. Number seven, records management shredding, $70,000, took that out of the budget, moved it over to the facilities equipment replacement fund. Number eight, records management, the Wi-Fi project, $25,000, moved that to the capital improvement fund. State's attorney's office, their server and software, $124,000, moved that to the capital improvement fund. Supervisor assessment server, $50,000, moved that to the facility equipment fund. Number 11, state's attorney's office, their parking, it was listed as $103,000. I think that's something that what we should do is negotiate that into the Joliet Pace building. That garage over there is empty during the daytime most of the time. I kind of liken that to seats on an airplane. The minute you close the door, that seat is worthless. By the time you get around to 9 o'clock in Joliet, all those empty parking spaces are worthless. At least if nothing else, we could utilize those and work closer in the negotiations with Joliet on the Pace building and include those into that negotiation. So the CBO building, $10,000. We have no plans for any improvements on that, so I say we eliminate that. Number 13, CBO food. That was $7,000. We're going to reduce that down to $3,500. Number 14, county executives, other professional services, $300,000. Bring that down to $275,000, a $25,000 savings, which is still above the 2024 spend. So again, not cutting any services, not cutting any pay, not cutting any jobs, still adding all the other new hires that were requested into the program, into the budget, I should say. Number 15, CE professional dues, $250,000, reduce that by $25,000 to $225,000. And that again, still is above the 2024 budgeted amount. So here's number 16. You know, I said I didn't cut anything or that, but on the sheriff's enforcement thing, I looked up what this device is. It appears from what I could research is it's some kind of device that measures the respiration of masks and stuff like that. It's $22,000. I looked at that maybe the TSI Pro respirator fit tester thing. We're not taking away guns, bullets, shields, cars, anything like that. That's a piece of equipment that $22,000, they could probably move over to one of their special funds and actually pay for that. With all that said, we're at a net positive of $11,000. Now, if we want, I think I'm more than open to answering any questions or that anybody might have as far as, all right, okay, on this proposed budget. So as you can see, it has nothing to do with cutting anybody's. I mean, maybe number 16, you could consider that we cut something out of somebody's budget. But in that case there, I think that they could move that over to a special fund and would make good sense to me. So I open for questions. All right. Janet?
I can explain number 16, the fit tester. What that is that was really important during COVID. What they do is they put a mask on you, they put the shield on you, and they have your turn your head back and forth while they spray this stuff
Yeah, so
to
it has some
see,
kind of stunt, yeah.
to see that it's holding to your face correctly. That's what that is for. And since we're not, and it also is used for TB.
So I
That's
mean,
what that mask is
I did look
for.
it up. I did do a Google search on that. I in turn then it took me to some YouTube videos and I watched that. And that's why I say that's something, $22,000, if it's that necessary. And I thought, because they kind of alluded to COVID or that, I was alluded, well, maybe they can find that in their special fund. So,
Agreed.
but
Thank you.
otherwise, I'm open to questions on any of the other items. So Sherry, you're up first.
Thank you. So this is probably more a question for Marcy or Rashawn. The FEMA carryover and the other carryovers that we didn't expend, so we were counting that as a positive. Did we not expend those because we just haven't paid for them yet? Or is it money that didn't get allocated or?
Carrie, do you mean ARPA money or FEMA money?
Up
Those
at
are
the
two
top-
different things.
Right, up at the top, there were two
FEMA.
carryovers.
Okay,
Sorry.
there we go.
The FEMA
Okay.
carryover.
All right.
So yeah, the ARPA money, I understand. We're taking that out of the unused, we still had the 600,000 or whatever of the unused ARPA funds. But yeah, the FEMA carryover, why was there such a large?
So what that is, the dollars that were allocated to the facilities maintenance department, they still have projects that are going to carry over into 25, as well as the ICT department. That is for the website, and that will carry over to 25 as well.
So we're still funding those same projects.
Yes.
You're just moving the FEMA dollars to
We have to,
the
yes,
2025, which
Yes.
is what we do every year when we have unused.
that's correct.
Okay, and then, the moving around, from other funds, like I understand moving those expenses to like capital improvement fund and things like that. Are there expenditures that were budgeted out of those funds that are going to have to make room for the new projects, so to speak?
Correct. The only thing that we need to make sure as in looking at the proposed changes here is the facilities equipment replacement fund will be okay for some of the projects that were allocated to that fund. The others projects or allocation to the capital improvement fund, we just need to make sure the dollars are there to cover all of the expenditures that have been budgeted in the capital improvement fund.
So that's something that you guys still have
So
to
it's-
ascertain, it sounds like.
Yeah, but we should be
Okay.
okay with that as well.
Okay, and then, I guess the other thing I'm wondering is, Jim, have you talked to any of the department heads where you're, moving funds around or changing things? I mean, even though they're not huge, like the sheriff, for example, does he know that you want to eliminate, the budget for that equipment or,
So based on this, and Marcy, you can maybe answer the question on the capital side for Rashawn, but this was worked on yesterday as of, I think I left here about 2:00-ish.
okay, so you
So-
didn't have a chance to.
I didn't have a chance to talk to anybody, but it's $22,000. I'm hoping that the sheriffs can find $22,000 in their budget for
Yes.
that.
I'm not
Yeah.
complaining about that.
So
I'm just,
to answer your question, that's the only one that we didn't talk about. Otherwise, all of them were just moving funds around and not cutting anybody's budget. So,
well, you're cutting in the county executive's office, but you're still funding more than last
funding more
year,
than what it
but
was
you're,
last year.
but you're cutting the request,
request.
basically. So have you communicated that? That's what I'm asking.
That was, again, yesterday afternoon.
Okay. And explain what happened to precipitate all this? The
The
$2 million.
that we found out on,
On
quote me if
Friday.
it was Thursday or Friday. Oh, you know what? Just leave your mics on for, oh. How come it's on mute all? I don't know. Oh, there we go. Mic on now. I think we need Marcy. Oh, she's not? Okay, thanks. To start talking. Okay, so I apologize. I got distracted over here. I'm like a little kid, I guess. What was your question again?
what was the, what happened with the $2 million that we're not getting from the state?
So that was, I think, oh yeah, the question was, I believe it was either Thursday.
So I can answer that.
Okay.
So when we reviewed revenue, so I mentioned during that time that the estimate for the replacement property tax, we had received that after the proposed
Right.
budget was already finalized and printed, and that normally comes the third week of August. So the $2 million change would be on the change list. And so that's what they're including in their proposed changes.
So $2 million less for the replacement tax.
Yes, because
it.
we budgeted for 24, 5.7, so that was carried because we didn't have that estimate yet. So that would be the change
Okay.
based on the proposed from the final budget
Okay.
approval.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So maybe I should clarify something too. Line items 12 and 13 are the county board budget. I did talk to Judy yesterday, I believe, and told her this is what we we're going to cut out. So, and that was, I think you were driving home and I was driving home. So, I guess I maybe misspoke a little bit by saying that there were no cuts or that I didn't talk to anybody. I did talk to Judy, but that was an easy phone call. The sheriff's office, I don't have a number, don't know who to talk to or that, so. But,
Or the state.
okay. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie.
No,
You
it's okay.
Mark.
I just wanted to tell you, you did a great job. $2 million on the fly. I had cut a bit myself and it's not easy. And this looks really good. I just need some clarification and some better understanding on a couple things. And I'll talk privately with you about the data center thing because I got a thing going on at the township where you might be able to help me. And I don't know enough about data centers and, whether or not they're antiqued or not. And Rashawn has kind of answered the question that she believes we have enough money in the capital improvement fund. And that was my number one question because we're moving these things over to that fund. But secondly, the rent savings, I need a little more info on that because I wasn't at last week's meeting. So I just need a little info so I understand. And then I am a little concerned about any negotiations with the city of Joliet, just because they haven't been a really good communicative partner as based on, some of the overheard conversations from other committees. We would have to maybe try to scrounge that money up. Again, not a huge amount of money. To me, $100,000 in a budget of our size is a drop in the bucket. And I'm sure, we could figure it out if we needed to. We could pull money from contingency or something like that. And then, because obviously any negotiations with the city of Joliet won't be done before we pass the budget. And that is a significant amount of money for this, when you add it up, because it wasn't just state's attorney. It was somebody else, I thought. Didn't you mention 2 that we would have to negotiate with Joliet?
Number 4.
Number 4, yeah. So then it becomes, a little bit more money. Although I can't really tell how much. Is it really just 203,000? Oh, okay. So it is kind of a drop in the bucket. Okay. And then bed tax. We've talked about this forever and a day. And I know back in the day when I was on public health and safety, I could probably tell you what bed tax was. I haven't been on public safety for a while. Public health, public safety. Can somebody refresh me on what bed tax is?
Pay a bed tax to the state.
Yeah, it's paid.
We pay to the
Sorry.
Yeah.
The bed.
Oh,
state that does it. It's easy to do.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a button. you can hit.
So the Sunny Hill Nursing Home pays the bed tax to the state.
Okay. All right. We don't get a choice.
No.
Correct.
That's just a
Yeah,
fee
that's
we have to
required.
pay.
That's required.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I think great job overall. I mean, just a little concerned because obviously we can't negotiate something with Joliet that quickly. And we may not get that money, but again, a small enough amount that if And we are funding contingency, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So we could just pull from there if we needed to.
So to answer your question too, Jackie, is that there have been negotiations going on with Joliet for a period of time, and we had a presentation last week in regards to that. So, I mean, to me, like I said before, I view those parking lot spaces as like airline seats.
Mhm.
And by 9 o'clock, that's like closing the door on the airplane. They're worthless.
Oh, I
So
agree.
and I've parked over there a couple times, and there's couple decks that are just wide open.
Wow. Okay.
So I think that's something that's, should be an easy pill for them to swallow. And to your point too, is that, yes, there is, let's just say it all fell apart, the $200,000. I have 3 pages
Mhm, of other
of line
small
item by
ones.
line
Yeah.
item where I've gone through that I could easily, by this afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
say, here's the other $200,000 if we can't get it. So, I mean.
Yeah, we'll save it. I have no concerns. I think you did a great job.
no,
And I
appreciate the
totally
compliment.
get the personal property replacement tax, because I remember, wasn't it last year? We got an unexpected bonus amount. And they let us know, I mean, I know at the township, we've received a huge cut in the amount of money that we have been getting. And they don't really explain why we're getting less. It's just all of a sudden we got less. And they never explained why we got more the last 2 years. So, the state does what the state does and we live with it. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
seems good to me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Mark, 1 second.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for putting this together. I know that I kind of led us to an additional meeting based on our last committee meeting. Is the board prepared, is the committee prepared to take this to the full board? I mean, what do we need now? Do we need to make a motion?
So if, as long as we're done with discussion, I don't see anybody, is your mic on just still?
I
Okay.
don't have any more
Okay,
questions.
all right, so
There's nothing.
there's nothing to vote on in here. This is just discussion. This is where I was presenting everything.
Mhm.
And then what we do is we're gonna jump back up to number 1, or I'm sorry, old business, number 5, number 1 there, and then work our way back down the rest of the agenda. So, yes, Sherry.
So, I would like to know, at some point, are we going to hear from Rashawn as to whether or not the capital budget can absorb these expenditures? That's kind of what I would like to see at some point, like a yes or a no from you guys, or Marcy,
Marcy's. Thank you.
So yes, both the capital budgets can absorb it. In the draft budget, for the capital improvement fund, the total was 6.8 million. And with all of the changes that occur from here and moving around, we're still at 6.8 million. Same thing for the facilities equipment replacement fund. The draft budget was at 1.7 million. And with the movement, we are at 1.6 million. Now that happens because we have ARPA money, which will be coming forward in the executive meeting on Thursday, that we have to allocate, that has come back to us. And leadership has discussed it and agreed that we should use it. The quickest and easiest way to do it is to use it on county initiatives and things that are needed by the county. So we've moved some of these items over to ARPA upon discussion with Anzer if they qualify.
which is how you freed up.
Which is how you freed
The
up some of the
capital
money. So that's
budget.
how you free up some of the money, and you don't necessarily have to do the 2% levy. You could do the proposed 0.75 levy. So that's how it all kind of,
And those funds have to be used.
those
Like-
funds have to be allocated by December.
Right,
of
no, I
December.
understand that.
So,
So-
and they're all projects that were either within the capital improvement fund or the capital facilities fund, or were just part of the corporate budget. A lot of them were built into other people's budgets, so we've moved things around to free up the corporate budget money.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Judy?
So now I sat in the same meeting last year. And I know the time and effort that Jim put in. This is one thing I want to talk to all you county board members. Is if you are not a chair of a committee, it is still your responsibility to do the work for the committee. it is not all Jim's responsibility or my responsibility or Jackie's responsibility or whoever's the chair of a committee. You're a committee because you should be a team. And remember this, the executive's office, well, first off, Marcy and Rashawn spend all summer together with all the departments, getting their list of things, right? And everybody puts together their wish list. And the two of them sit down and say, yeah, no. And they came up with whatever we have as proposed, right? And then the budget is delivered to us by the county executive in her State of the County presentation. At that time, the budget moves to us. This is our budget. It's not the executives. We're the ones that appropriate the funds and spend the funds. We're the ones who put the levy out there. It's our responsibility to look at the levy and decide what's right or wrong. So you can't all say, well, where did you do this with? All you guys should be asking those questions. If Rashawn and Marcy haven't had a question from you guys, that's bad. That's bad. You should do that. I know the work I put in. I know the work that other people put in. Everybody has a responsibility. And I do know that some of you are still new. You're coming up on your second year. I get that. Personal replacement tax, that is something that varies every single year. So we got lucky that we had funds available for us to take it because we had to do something. There was going to be a cut. In this case, not as much of a cut because we're able to just pay it out of different things. So we're not cutting anything. That's it. So I just want you guys to think about that you guys need to be responsible for that.
Can we just move?
I had a discussion item.
I have a comment also.
All right, so I don't know who, I wasn't paying attention to, so how about ladies first then?
I was just going to say, Judy, that goes back to I should address the chair. That goes back to my original comment about being disappointed because at the last meeting, Jim did say that he had a proposal to reduce the increase to 0.75%. And I realize circumstances have changed and you had to deviate from what you were originally talking about. But I've been waiting since that meeting to get that information because we are a team. And I would have liked to have been able to review the proposed cuts and, possibly looked for other areas and a determination myself. So that goes back to my original comment about transparency. And you hit it on the head when you said we are a team. But in order for us to act as a team, we all have to have the same information. Now, I realized the situation yesterday was, with finding out about the replacement tax was an emergency situation. And Jim, I do commend you for all the time that you've spent on this. You spend a ton of time on this, but we can't really actively participate without full disclosure. Thank you.
I'm more than happy to, I think I'm pretty much an open book. I guess yesterday I left here, I put together some information. I apologize for going out to dinner with my wife and then going to work out. And not replying back to your text at whatever it was, 5 o'clock at night or that. So I apologize for that, but this was something that I found out on Friday. I was going to send it out earlier, but things changed. And quickly I talked to Marcy. We met yesterday. I want to say we were probably together after the OPEB meeting, 3-4 hours. I don't know. I didn't put a clock on it. And that's where we're at. Yeah, unfortunately, she had to sit with me. So my wife says the same thing. So I appreciate everybody's hard work, and let's move to Mark, and then let's get going because, I mean, I can stay here all night, but I think we can move this through fairly quickly.
I just wanted to say, I had 2 meetings with Rashawn and one of them was with Mike Mahoney. Our main takeaway from that was the food contracts. That's probably, I think I listed that, or I at least brought it up with you. But there is the adult detention facility, the River Valley Justice Center, and then the Sunny Hill Nursing Home. And they all have separate food agreements. And, just thinking of ways long-term that we can try and save some money, maybe consolidating those into one, program. So it might be difficult to do, but that could be something we take on into next year. So that was like our main takeaway. So I wanted to thank you guys for meeting with me as well and talking about it. So.
All right, let's move on to old business item number 1, estimate of annual aggregate levy corporate fund Can I get a motion to put that on the table?
Motion.
All right, so I need to,
Second first, then discussion.
so Perla, did you catch it?
Second by Parker. Yes. Okay, for discussion. Thank you.
I gotta turn your mic on, I guess. Hold on.
So after seeing the presentation, which was awesome, I'd like to make a motion to amend to 0.75. And I need a second.
I'll second Parker.
Okay, discussion on that then. Anybody on the committee? Jackie, it looks like you're up.
The presentation that you just showed, unless I'm mistaken, and maybe you need to flip back to that page. I thought that was only to cut the 2 million out of the budget that we're being shorted by this, I'll say being shorted, that we're not getting from the state. I didn't see any other cuts in there or anything else that would make it possible to go down to 0.75. So without seeing that, and having some time to digest it, I'm certainly not ready to vote on anything. But I'm not on the committee, so, because I thought all you did was cut the 2 million that we didn't get.
No.
There were,
Nope, cut the 2 million, and we actually moved funds around into the ARPA fund, and that's how we moved some of those funds for,
so you're saying the
Capital.
reason that you believe you can cut it to 0.75 is because of the ARPA fund money?
yes.
Yeah, I really would want to take a closer look at that, and I appreciate it being on the screen because I don't believe it was on my agenda. But that is the tiniest print ever, and my brain is still not functioning properly because my
I tried to
ears are
get it all
plugged.
on one page.
Yeah,
That
no,
was the challenge.
Do we have printouts of it that I could take home and take a look at?
We can get printouts, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not on the committee, so my vote doesn't count or matter anyway, so not at this point.
So we're still in discussion. Who's number 4 is on?
I'm done.
So this is all like the math, and it's all justified. And so everything you presented previously coincides with the motion from member Logan to get us to 0.75.
Correct.
I have no further comments at this time.
Sherry?
I would just like a little bit of time to look it over if that's possible.
Be more than happy to give you a copy of it, and
I mean,
this is just to get it out of committee, so. If staff could make copies of that PowerPoint or whatever PDF that I gave you.
yeah, I'm not comfortable voting on it
So I have
till
a-
I get to look
I
at it.
have a
but I'm
motion and
one
a
person.
second. Perla, cover a roll call, please, on the amended.
Levy to 0.75.
Hold on one second. Okay,
Newquist,
I'm a no for right now.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Logan,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Revis,
Yes.
Richmond.
yes.
Motion carries.
All right, number 2, estimate of annual aggregate levy, community health fund. Look at it. Oh.
We have to, so the amendment was voted on, now you have to vote as amended.
Okay, all right.
The estimate of the aggregate levy and 0.75.
So whatever Kim just said. All right, Perla, can you, another roll call, please?
Newquist,
No.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Logan,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Revis,
Yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we can move to number 2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for keeping me in the guardrails. I appreciate it. Number 2, estimate of annual aggregate levy for Community Mental Health Board. Can I get a motion to put that on the table?
Second Parker.
Discussion, all right. Is your mic, yes, your mic's on, Vince? Okay, all right. And I've got some notes on that too myself, so. Do you mind if I go first, Vince?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We do.
So,
No, I don't
So-
mind. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What?
I don't mind.
Oh, all right. So I know there's always been a lot of discussion on this Community Mental Health Act, and I spent a little bit of time reviewing it. I don't have 3 years of law school or passed the bar, but I did read through it and I did ask some questions. So one of the things that when you go through this here, I had my own notes. If you go to section 405, 3F, right here. The mental health board, each community mental health board shall prepare and submit for information purposes in the appropriations process to the appointed officer and governing body, which is the county board, referred to in section 3A. Number one, an annual report that is going to detail the income received and distributions made pursuant to this act during the fiscal year, just preceding the date the annual report is submitted, which date must be within 180 days of the end of the fiscal year. I was unaware of any kind of annual report that has been prepared and or presented to us. And I just, that's a question there. The other thing too is when you go through it for part of their budget requests, and in regards to the levy that are for the levy of such tax, the governing body of such government unit shall therefore after annually levy a tax levy not to exceed the rate set forth in section 4. So aside from the fact that it was, the max was 0.05 per the resolution and the referendum, we have not had a budget request. We have not had the annual report and or the mental health plan submitted. So there are some, we had a budget request, I apologize, but we haven't had the annual report or the mental health plan. And that's just something that if we want to stay within the letter of the law, I want to make, we had a little bit of an issue and concern in regards to minutes and that. I think this is also something very substantial because we're talking $10 million here, folks, is what has been requested. And we got to make sure that as a finance committee that we understand the law and as far as how it needs to be implemented and executed. So it's a concern that I had, and I just want to make sure that everybody kind of plays along here. So Vince, did you have any?
I do.
Okay. You know what, Vince on the committee, so let's go him first.
Based on that, I'd like to make an amendment to move this dollar amount to 5 million.
Do you have a second?
Second, Revis.
Discussion.
Discussion? Sure. All right, so I know, Sherry, you're on the committee, but I think Jackie had her microphone.
That's fine.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about your concerns, and they're valid concerns. I mean, we do want to follow the law. I also know that, and I think we have our treasurer here, they didn't get their 10 million that was budgeted for this year, and I don't know if they have it all yet. I think probably pretty close, if not all. Yeah. So they can't spend money or allocate money until they actually receive it because they don't have a credit account, although we did loan them some money. And I think we have to pay them back. And did we pay them back? Okay, so the board did pay us back for the loan. I think they just hired the executive director like 30 days ago. I mean, and they haven't really spent any money other than that initial seed money. So while I agree with you, we want them to follow the letter of the law. I think just like whenever you set up anything new, the first year, there's maybe even the first 2 years, there's going to be some glitches as people start to get things together. I would fully anticipate that like in May of next year, we will have a written report from them. We will have, expenditures, and I'm sure we're going to get a budget from them on actual funds. But just to comment on the motion that you all have on the floor right now, I don't see, a 50% cut in their request for this year as a significant problem. Because whatever they get this year, it's going to be kind of the same thing. It's not going to get spent till the following year. because they don't get all of the money until like September of next year. And it's kind of hard to spend money between September and November or December and allocate it all. Although I suppose that technically it could be possible. But just like us, we have a reserve fund, right? We have reserves, and that's what we use to pay our bills while we're waiting for the next year's property tax to come in. So they're kind of in the same boat. They couldn't spend anything this year because they didn't have any property tax money to spend. So again, until they kind of get into a rhythm, I can see that, you know, it isn't actually going to follow absolutely everything to the letter of the law. So while I agree with you, I understand the current situation. So that's all I would say. Thanks.
So I apologize, I wasn't paying attention over here to who was up first or that, but Vince, did you just?
I'm just not turning mine off.
Oh, okay. So Janet,
Julie
oh,
turned her
Julie,
mic
okay,
first.
Julie, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, it's up here too, right?
Turn this sound off, but obviously.
Okay.
Okay, so two things. So I'm looking at the resolution and I was kind of shocked to see the additional column there for the final 2023 levy, which includes an additional $17,869. So it wasn't $10 million. It was $10,017,869. That's a difference. Two different numbers popped up on this resolution. So the third column says 2024 proposed levy, 10 million. Is that actually going to wind up being the same? The 10,017,869? Is that additional 17,000 going to pop up later? Because why would we have it for 2023? Should we anticipate that for 2024? And I'm looking at the chart on the resolution.
So I can answer that. So what we're doing now is estimating the levy. And so what we're saying, and we can go back to the county's resolution as well. So at this time, we are estimating the levy and we're saying we want to extend in April when we've actually extended the levy and it's gone out. When we get the actual back in April, I come before the board and I present to you what the actual final numbers are. That's what you're seeing in that final column. And can you pull up the Will County? So if you look at the resolution for Will County, you'll see the same thing. So we extended the first column there. That's the Will County one. So we estimate the levy in, yep, the very first.
No,
Yep, that one.
Nope, sorry. I was talking about mental health. You had the right.
Well, I just wanted
Oh,
to, just
here.
to show an example. So we estimate the levy. So if you look at the 2023 column, that first column, that's the levy request that we're doing at this same time here. So those are all of the funds that we set the estimated levy for, that we're saying we want to extend the levy for that. The middle column is what the actual levy was when it was extended. So that's what you're seeing here. The same with the Community Mental Health Board.
Okay, so there is a possibility that the 2024 proposed levy again will be over $10 million.
Correct, as the Will County levy as well.
Okay, so I had a question, how, Vince, you mentioned lowering it to $5 million. And my question is what are we basing this dollar amount on? We have no plan. We don't have any guidelines. We don't have any reporting. We don't even know what, when this whole thing came forward, there was a dire need to address mental health issues. It was a crisis. And now we're sitting on money and we're waiting. It's not going to be allocated till March. They didn't have the money, but the process could have been done prior to receiving the levy. The process could have been prepared and the selection could have been done if this was a crisis prior to getting that money. But this money is going to be sitting in a fund or somewhere until next year. And now we're taking more money out of the taxpayers' pockets. And everyone I talk to is struggling. They're hurting. They're concerned about paying their property taxes. And that is also a mental health crisis. We are to the point where everyone in their homes. So when we're looking at this levy, I want to know, why should we take any money from the taxpayer? So that's what I'm waiting to hear.
So, you know what, I was asking Kim if she can explain it, because she can help me with the lawyer part. I just read it and was trying to comprehend stuff, so Kim, if you don't mind.
So when Jim was referring to the reports that were, that are required pursuant to the statute, in this section of the statute, it says that there are 3 things that the county board should take into consideration when determining what the levy is going to be for the coming year. One of those things is a budget request, which you have received. The other 2 things which you have not received, which is, one is required by statute, which is the annual report showing how the money has been spent. As the county board was informed last week, I believe it was, that the Community Mental Health Board received their first $5 million in May. So they have had plenty of time to prepare a report that would tell you where that money went, right? While the executive director was recently hired, they have had legal counsel as well as the county executive's office advising them since this board was created. So these items are available, but additionally, under the statute, then it also says that one of the third thing that you can take into consideration when determining the amount that you are going to levy for this is the mental health plan to defray necessary expenses and liabilities and providing for such community mental health facilities and services. Also something that this board has not received. Today is the vote on this. This is not the obligation of the board to go out and seek this information. This information is to be presented to the board. So those are the things that you can consider when determining how much you want to levy.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
So looks like Janet and then Sherry.
The new director for the mental health board is here. I would like her to answer some of these questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Hi, Tina Mackey, the director for the Community Mental Health Board. And my apologies, I can't speak to a May annual report. I've been here since August 1st. But I can answer some questions about the spending, the plan to spend the money. So you're right. May was the first half of the tax levy collection, $5 million. Actually, $4 million of that collection was sent to the health department. So a considerable portion of that money has been spent. The second half of the collection occurred just recently, September, October. And I think I shared last week that the plan for grant applications will be accepted in January 2nd of 2025, with awards completed by March of 2025. So those tax dollars that have been collected, the second half will actually be awarded and spent prior to the start of the next levy year in May of 2025. And I understand the concern about the money just sitting somewhere. It is in an interest-bearing account. And again, we're beginning the first year of the cycle. We certainly will have a lot to report by May of 2025 in an annual report. Not so much to report this past year because, as mentioned, we're just getting started and the collection just occurred. And that first half of the collection was pretty much earmarked with the Will County Health Department stipend that was paid just recently. So once we begin in January accepting those grant applications every year going forward, it will be a pretty logical cycle, I think, where There's a collection in May. Part of that will be expenditures that occur. And then the second half of the collection, applications accepted in January, paid out by March. So those dollars will be expended before the beginning of the new tax levy cycle. The legislation, the original legislation calls for a limit on the levy of 0.15%. The local referendum passed at 0.05%. The proposal will call for a levy of closer to 0.326%. So in comparison to the actual legislation, our levy is fairly conservative and actually considerably below what the taxpayer voted for in the fall 22 referendum. So we actually are trying to be very good stewards of the dollars, and the cost to administer the fund is at less than 5% for overhead costs. So again, we're trying to be as conservative as possible, and people are struggling. I think that's a good comment. People are struggling with mental health, substance use, and intellectual development of disabilities. Those services, people are struggling to find those services. Suicide rates are up. Families are having great difficulty finding the services they need. And so I think we can applaud the Will County Board and your foresight in implementing this levy and allowing for funding of those services. And again, in May of 2025, we will have a very robust annual report talking about specifically people that live in Will County that are being well served by those dollars.
I appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much for your comments and all that in regards to mental health. I don't think anybody here is questioning mental
Sure.
health or anything like that, the need for it or that. The question comes down to is following the law. And at this point in time, if you don't file a report with certain government entities, they come down and they want to take your house, stuff like that. So all I'm asking to do is that we follow the letter of the law. The amount of money that was transferred over the $5 million, of the $5 million, $4 million was transferred to the health department. I'm not questioning if the health department is doing their job or not, but is there any
Sure.
audit process on how they're spending those dollars towards mental health or that?
They do come to the Community Mental Health Board meeting every month, and they've provided us with a pretty good detail. Don't quote me, it is my feeling that there is an annual report that was generated. I've seen an annual report that was generated earlier in 2024. So, I think we've got to make sure that we provide you with that information. We can certainly provide you with the monthly reports that occur from the health department. The Will Grundy Medical Clinic has provided some information about the needs assessment process. So there is good information out there. My apologies if we've fallen short with getting it to you folks, but we certainly can remedy that quickly.
Yeah. Well, just to, we had a good conversation last week when you were here and that, and I appreciate the job that you're doing. But the verbal portion of it has to be writing so that this way it could be filed with the appropriate groups of that, because at the end of the day, last thing I want to do is have this committee
Of course.
be in some kind of position where we can't defend ourselves and no lack of us trying to get the job done, but we have no responsibility for that job. So
Of course.
I just want to make sure that we follow the letter of the law.
I understand.
And also is, maybe make sure that there's some kind of audit process on how those dollars are being spent.
Correct.
Okay,
Chair, can I add a comment to that? It's rather pertinent to this topic.
make it brief.
If you could turn my microphone on, I will make it extremely brief. I just want to make everyone aware, the annual report was filed with the board on September 3rd. The chair was in receipt of it and responded to the email. So that was provided to the board over a month ago. So just so everyone's aware that there is an annual report, it was given to the board. I hope that ends any confusion that anyone has on it. Hope that was brief enough.
Mike, can you please provide a copy of that to staff today?
Probably was already.
You could just nod your head. It's fine.
I most certainly will, but yeah, September 3rd. Provided.
Annette, then Sherry, and then go from there. I'm sorry, wait a second here.
Are there any plans for any funding to go to the health department again for the following next year?
There has been conversation, yes, about that $4 million again. I think the health department has initiated some excellent programs and additional staff. That interruption of that funding would maybe devastate those plans. So while the Community Mental Health Board has not voted specifically on that yet, I do think there's conversation about that, yes.
And then I did not figure it out, but I'm just curious what the rate would be if we do drop it to 5 million. I don't know.
I can tell
Sean
you,
or Marcy can put that. Oh,
0.0165 if we went to, so,
okay, thank you.
Sherry?
I just wanted to remind the board that the taxpayers did vote for this. I mean, it was a referendum that passed. So I would hope that we would, comply with the spirit of what the taxpayers want us to do and help improve mental health services in the county. Thank you.
Judy, and from Jennifer to Judy, so filed by health board.
Mary?
So it kind of in support of what Member Newquist just said too. The provision in the statute is directory. It is not mandatory. There's no penalty for failing to provide the report. That being said, I absolutely believe the report needs to be given. The county board does need guidance as to how to set the budget, but it appears that the report was in fact sent to the county board.
So my understanding, Mary, if I'm correct, and you saw the email, is that the county executive sent the report to the county board chair. It did not come from the mental health board to the county board chair.
It doesn't really matter.
I'm just asking. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for that. All right, so I'm lost at where we're at now. Who's-
So you are.
No, but I'm
Oh, okay.
Over there.
microphones.
They're on the board. The
All right.
committee. Thank you.
I feel like you're traffic control right now, so. All right,
Go ahead, Mark, you go first.
So just to confirm, we're in our ordained power to reduce this to $5 million.
Yes, we can. I mean, it can be adjusted any year. It could be zero, it could be, it could be higher. I guess the concern that I had is that monies were coming in. They said it was an interest-bearing accounts. I mean, we're talking, over the course of of last year and this year, $20 million. $20 million out of the taxpayers' pockets is a significant amount.
I agree.
Nobody's questioning mental health, and I believe that the health department is doing their job and everybody's trying to do that. But if you're looking at, go back to that 4 quadrants up there is how best are we, make decisions in that. If they're working on getting themselves ramped up, they have a nice nest egg of dollars to start working with, and it can be adjusted again next year up or that. So it was a point of reference that I wanted to bring up. There were some situations last year or earlier in this year where, if you don't follow the letter of the law, you could have issues, and I just want to make sure that this committee is protected, that's all. You don't have to raise your hand, you can just,
Push the red button, the
Yeah.
button to go red.
The speaker, the person on there.
and I got to give you 1 second, all right.
Okay, I just want to make you aware of this. I mean, you can control all that stuff, but if the budget, or I shouldn't say the budget, the levy's 10 million, you take it down to 5 million, and you take it, say the following year, you're going to go back up to 10 million, you're subject to PTEL.
No,
They're not.
no.
The statute specifically says it's not subject to
Okay.
property taxes.
Okay, that was my
So,
question. Thank you.
I just,
One of the questions.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
I
Yes.
think there was something in there about this too, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Janet and.
Janet and Mark.
Okay, I'll be honest, I am definitely not comfortable taking it down to 50%. to 5 million, that I'm definitely out on that one. Mental health is a real thing for people who don't think it is. If you don't, I mean, we have shootings constantly going on. If you witness a shooting, you now have a mental health issue. I can't tell you in a weekend how many we've had here just in the Joliet area. And I know that the Joliet Township has a whole anti-violence program going where they're going out to shootings, and it was meant to be for Joliet Township. They're not staying in Joliet Township. They're treating all of Will County. Thank you very much to Joliet Township for that. They're even going to stabbings. So, and if you're a witness of any of these horrific crimes, you now are getting treated for mental health. So it is a crisis. We've had kids commit suicide in schools. It's been a while since my son was in school, but it was happening in schools. So I can't go to 50%.
Janet, I appreciate your insight. Thank you
you.
very much. So,
Yeah, out of curiosity, so when not subject to PTEL, so that means next year, if they need the 10 million, we could, re-up it to 10 million since it's not subject to PTEL, property tax extension law.
I believe I read something like that in here, didn't comprehend it, confirmed with Kim, and Mary just confirmed it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it could be adjusted without following the guidelines of PTEL. So,
And based on the schedule of the mental health board receiving the funds as it is, they wouldn't receive this till September anyway. So right.
It would be May of next year.
May of next year.
May and then September.
Half in May, half in September. Okay. All right. I think I have enough information to make a decision. So
Jackie, I think you.
Yes, I did want to weigh in a little bit. And I could be snappy, whatever, but I'm going to not do that, even though I really want to, because I can tell you, we don't always follow the law here on the Will County Board. So I'll just leave it with that statement to the chair. And I hope he is comprehending what I'm saying, even though he's listening to someone else right now. So maybe I'll just hold till he finishes. I just wanted to let you know, this county board violates laws, our own and state statute. And I'm not going to get into a chapter and verse, but I just want to say that is real. I don't want to see our health department get shortchanged. I know that they are now implementing some new programs up in the northern office that affects my community. I want to see those programs enhanced, and they are mental health programs. I want to see them grow. I would love to see them have evening and weekend hours that are voluminous, because it is very difficult for people that are having mental health issues to get in during the 8:30 to 4:30 time period, because a lot of times people have jobs, and those jobs are actually helping to pay for the coverage and the health services that they need, because they get health insurance sometimes, paltry as it might be, through those organizations that they work for. So I would be very leery, just based on what the new executive director said. They will have expended the first half of their tax levy for this year before the end of the budget year, and the remainder before next May. So they're going to need those funds again next year to function. And we did budget very conservatively in terms of the levy last year. We didn't, quote unquote, to quote some of my colleagues, tax to the max. They started out very, very conservatively. They did not go as high as what the referendum even called for. And if anything, I think it's incumbent upon us as county board members to be out there talking to our constituents and neighborhood groups. I know I've talked to several in my community, because they didn't understand what this new tax was on their bill and why it was there. They had forgotten. They voted for something, and then, oh, what is this? But they voted for it. And then, just to be square, not everybody voted for it. I mean, it passed, but you've got a percentage, 45% or whatever, that voted no and didn't expect this on their tax bill. And since we don't really have newspapers anymore, And even when we do have them, people don't read them. And sometimes it's just better to have one-on-one conversations. But I would hate to shortchange this board in their very first startup years, because then it might actually look like a failure. And because our own health department is depending on this money, because we don't fund them out of our regular tax levy, no, we don't fund them enough out of our regular tax levy. And we are capped, as our supervisor of assessments brought up. We can't just raise the levy any amount that we want to fund the health department because of PTEL. And there has been reluctance, and I've seen it, I've been here 16 years, on the part of the health department to come forward and ask for funds. Same thing with our nursing home. Very reluctant to come forward and ask for funding. That's why we had a little bit of a crisis this year with beds at the Sunny Hill nursing facility. So I would be very reluctant to reduce their levy. Thank you.
So as far as the crisis for the gym, crisis for the beds, it was just simply a request for purchasing of new beds. That was put in the budget, and now we're going to be funding it through some ARPA dollars. So the crisis wasn't a crisis. They just need to fund for beds. They didn't do that in the past. They should have put it on there, just like we do for vehicles and a lot of different departments and sheriff and everywhere else. We have a rotating fund, and that never has been done at the nursing home. It should be to say we have a replacement of beds every so often, because they do get old and they're used constantly up and down and back and forth and everything like that. As far as the statement made that the taxpayers voted for, the taxpayers did vote not to exceed 0.05%. So while we didn't exceed 0.05%, that doesn't mean we have to tax for 0.05%. So that's not, but they didn't vote to go for 0.05, but not to exceed. So anything we collect is beyond zero, the sum of about half the county voted for. In addition to that, as far as the health department or the Sunny Hill Nursing Home not coming forward to ask for funds, that's their executive director's responsibility. All the other departments come forward and they ask for funds. Why they haven't done that in the past, I don't know why they haven't done it in the past. But one thing that we also have to note is that we have, as a board, always funded the health department from what they've asked for. In addition to that, our health department has provided services for mental health and behavioral health. It's not like we didn't. There are some counties who pass a tax like this that haven't had, their health department didn't offer mental health services, so they put this tax on to get it. So it's not like we've never done that. We have done that as a county. I don't want that thought to get out there that we've never funded it. We have funded it. Other counties haven't, and they've done this, and they've gone and built a building and everything like that, because they didn't have anything. It was all private sector organizations that funded and provided those services through whatever grants. So that is just for clarification purposes. And I did have Tim go and get my iPad. And so I did get an email from the executive that said that the annual report was attached. And I believe Tina was stopping by, and I saw her stopping by, but those days I was there, was in and out. So we didn't get to meet till recently. We never really sat down. But the only attachment was this little thing about Happy Labor Day. So I never did get the report. I just got an attachment that said Happy Labor Day was the attachment that I got. And when I responded, I said, yes, I was aware that we were supposed to meet. I didn't even actually refer to the first thing saying it was attached, because it wasn't attached, and I must have been busy and didn't notice or respond back to that. So we still need to get that report sent to us, and then we can distribute it to the board. But I just wanted to make those clarifying comments. Thank you.
Let's just go back to the committee. We've been going this way. Let's go this way now.
And that can go.
Oh,
Annette, yeah, I don't want to hop in front of her.
Okay. All right, then we're going.
I'll be brief. So I know you want to vote on this today. I wish we did have a budget to see kind of where the funding would be going. I know you're still waiting on applications, but I am on the health board, and I am a little uncomfortable cutting the budget in half. I can appreciate maybe reducing it, but I just don't know how I feel about doing it in half. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Vince? Or Mark can go?
So, I know some are, on our side of the aisle talking about maybe going to even 0%. I am not comfortable with the 0%, but I am comfortable with the 50, cutting it in half.
Yeah,
at,
I don't think
5
anybody
million.
said going to zero on mental health with that. It's,
Maybe
it-
that was just side chatter going on.
yeah, I
but-
mean, I never heard anything like that. I bring up the compliance statute for this act only because after reading through what I had, because I candidly, I gotta tell you, this was voted on almost 2 years ago. I didn't understand it, so I took and I started reading through it. I'm a technology guy. I'm not a lawyer. And after reading through it, I was thoroughly confused. So that's when I started asking some questions and need to understand. And then finding in there that some things needed to be reported and they weren't. Or unaware of, I should say, unaware of those things. So I believe it's my job as the chair to at least bring up things and have the discussion with this group. So this way we understand where we're at.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, just from my perspective, I do see, or I am comfortable with the $5 million amendment. But not the full zero. I know some were talking about it during the meeting.
I didn't hear anybody talking about zeros. I mean, at least I'm unaware of that. So, but that's all right. Vince, you're up and then.
I think Mary's got.
So I just want to make it clear, and what you do is what you do, but I've got the statute in front of me with regard to the report. And it says, an annual report detailing the income received and disbursements made pursuant to this act during the fiscal year just preceding the date the annual report is submitted, which date must be within 180 days of the end of the fiscal years. So it just says within 180 days. It doesn't say at least 180 days before the end of the fiscal year. So if they submit it today, they're still in compliance.
I don't think anybody said they were not in compliance if they submitted it today, but it is a factor under the other section that the county board can take into consideration in determining the levy. So
I just-
therefore, if they don't have it, they can't consider it.
I just want to make sure people understand because the terminology, I want to follow the letter of the law has been used. And I just want to make sure that no one has violated the law, that it is a factor to be considered. And there has been a verbal report that has been issued. So she was here at the last finance committee meeting and told everyone what had and had not been spent. Now, was it in minute detail? No, but it certainly gave a general idea of what had been spent. So.
Thank you, Mary.
Oh, you're next.
So I just thought I'd comment why I made that amendment. My degree's in marriage and family therapy. I know mental health is out there. I spent years as a police officer. I can't tell you how many mental health cases I went to. The need is there. The absolute need is there. The problem I see is that we have to think fiscally. None of this money's been moved. I've been to many of the 708 board meetings. I'm watching what they're doing. I think they just need a little bit more time to get their feet wet, I guess. So reducing that number down seems like a logical, fiscal, responsible thing to do. If they need more money come next year, then we can readjust it. I just don't see that we need to give them yet $10 million more and have it just sit in an account and not be allocated. I think that's a disservice to our taxpayers to take money from them and just let it sit. And what's the other thing I was going to say? I think that was it. Yeah.
Jackie and then Sherry, it looks like.
I really appreciate the state's attorney's office coming forward and saying about how it's within 180 days and that we would be in compliance. I think that really clears it up because I did infer from the way you phrased it, and I know you didn't say it exactly that way, to like try to make it seem like it had to be at 180 days, but that's how I took it. So I really appreciated her coming forward to explain it. Secondly, I would say, the the new executive director is here, has explained that all of the funds collected this year are likely to be expended by May. That means that if we don't put that same amount of money back, that people are going to be shorted, and especially our health department. And I would just say, I know for a fact, because I looked at some of my notes, that the health department asked for way more money last year than what they received. So to say that we didn't fulfill all of their needs is true. It's not disingenuous. We have the director of the health department here. I'm certain that she can attest to that. I've seen that with every department, every budget. They ask for this amount and then we reduce it to this amount. It happens each and every year. And I know from the years that I've been on the board, there have been years where they didn't ask for even one dime more because they knew the answer was going to be no. We had 6 years, and I believe they were pretty much all in a row, where we had a 0% increase in the tax levy. All we took was the new property, which is a very paltry amount. There's no way they were getting, the kind of money they were asking for. We do have these crises in our community. It does take a minute to get a new, I'll call it agency. I don't know if that's the right term, set up. And they have been working very diligently at that. And I think they're about ready to be as close as you can get to full speed for a first year organization. I don't support cutting their levy. So thank you.
Sherry, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm comfortable. Oh, sorry. No, Sherry, go ahead. Go ahead. You were waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
It's okay.
Well, I just wanted to say that I know that we have to be fiscally responsible, but we do need to remember that the voters did vote this in because they thought it was important. And if we're going to be cutting before we can even get started, now this, Jim, this is an issue that I've had as far as services and cutting. So we said we didn't cut anything from our county budget. However, we're trying to cut from this budget. Cutting is cutting. We need to provide these services. The voters voted it. They knew that these services were needed. And if we're going to provide adequate services, not just the menial stuff that we're barely providing the services, that means we are providing the services, but are we providing adequate services? I personally believe that had we been providing the adequate money to the health department, we probably wouldn't even have a community mental health board. We would have just put it in our budget and it would have been taken care of. Since we didn't do that, now we have this and we left it to the voters and the voters did decide. We don't have to like what the voters decide, but they did decide. And we need to comply with that. Those are the taxpayers that we're talking about. Those same voters are those taxpayers as well. So it's not only about being fiscally responsible, and we should be. Again, I'm a senior on a fixed income. Money is tight. However, I do know that there's a lot of things going on in the community. I worked at the Will County Jail. There were a lot of the inmates that were there that had mental health issues. So this is a crisis in the community, and I would like to see us try to deal with it on the level that it needs to be dealt with. And that means providing enough money for the board to do their job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry, then Vince, and then
So the reason I'm comfortable with the $10 million, even though I can appreciate the concerns about the slow start and, money sitting in the accounts and not being expended, is because think about it. We are looking very far ahead with this $10 million. I mean, if the money that we levy today isn't even going to be received by them until June of 2025, and the second half isn't going to be received until the fall of 2025. So in reality, if we cut that money now, we're affecting the delivery of services as into 2026. So that's why I think it's important that we fund it at the appropriate level that they're asking for, that they're planning on for the services. Now, even though it does seem like we're adding money to money that's just sitting around. Sorry, that wasn't very elegantly said, but I hope you get the gist.
If I could make one more comment. Correct. The 2024 levy will be expended by March 2025. Those dollars will be earmarked. The other thing is, when we talk about the legislation, the spirit of the legislation is for grassroots provision of services at a grassroots level. So when we open the grant applications January 2nd, the money funded to the Will County Health Department is important and will help to those services to grow and thrive. But what's equally important is we're going to have grant applications that far exceed the $10 million in our budget. And those are dollars that the community, again, not unlike the folks that voted, those are going to be requests that the community is identifying as very important and needs in our community here in Will County. There'll be a residential requirement for the earmarking and allocating of the funds. And so again, the spirit of the legislation is that we are providing some of those grassroots services identified as a high priority need by our residents.
So let me just talk about grassroots organizations and that. So are these grassroots organizations, because I heard from Janet, I've heard from others, children are suffering from mental health issues. Vets are suffering from mental health issues. Even our seniors are suffering from mental health issues. Citizens of the United States are suffering with mental health issues. We have a crisis here in this country of non-citizens that are stepping in front of citizens getting care. Is there a way that you're going to be able to ensure that this goes to our children that Janet talks about and our vets that the VAC and, my dad's a vet and that they get some type of priority or that? I mean,
Sure. Yes, there is. We're developing a scoring rubric that will create an objective evaluation, and there will be priorities. Children, youth, and young adult is certainly a priority. Workforce development, so that there are folks to serve in the services. Right now, cost availability is a huge barrier to services, and two of those, are as a result of a small workforce, and people are waiting in line for months for services.
Well,
and so
you just hit upon another key fact. I hear that, for every 5 people that retire from the trades, which are great union jobs, only 2 are being replaced. And if we can take these people that are in crisis,
sure,
and get them into these job programs where we know that they can use their hands and use their minds and become a productive citizen in this country, that's huge.
those are certainly priorities that we will set in the award of the dollars. Again, youth, young adults, the senior population, those services are woefully inadequate. And so, in the scoring rubric where we determine the priorities for awards, those issues will definitely be part of the scoring process.
Because I think the minute that somebody has a job, they see a future. And with that future becomes the American dream, and they're able to then, move their family forward. So
Agreed.
As if that's the focus, that's a great thing. I don't think that there's anybody on this committee that doesn't want to take care of mental health. The question is how do we move forward?
Sure, of course.
All right, so I'm sorry for stepping in front of whoever was next, but Vince?
So 2 things really quick. One, actually 3 things. Mental health, somehow or another, that keeps coming up. We all want people to get better. I don't know why that keeps bringing, that's not the issue here. As much as I can appreciate a verbal budget, we're all about budgets. We need to see it in writing. If we had something in writing that outlined dollars being spent, I'd have absolutely no problem putting forward the money. And reducing the levy is not a disservice to the taxpayers. The taxpayers say we can go to a certain number. If we need time to get our feet wet and get going and ramp things up, then I think we shouldn't have the taxpayers foot the bill for it. And I still feel forward that, and I still feel that, and my suggestion was good. It's just, if we can spend it appropriately, and I think we need to do that. We need to think forward a little bit. So
Vince, you were trying to operate in that upper left-hand quadrant of the box.
I am.
And trying to be, look at it from a business perspective. Is this cash just sitting in a cash account?
And I do know that I've been to the meetings, and I do know that there are plans for moving forward. It's just not using the whole 10 million. So, I mean, there are plans to use the money. It's just, I wish we had something in writing. I really do. And I just can't. Just not having that hurts. It hurts.
It makes it for a tougher decision.
It does.
Mark? 1 second.
So I appreciate the work of the mental health board. I know that they've got a difficult task and there's a lot of need in the county. But what I hear from all the time from people is that their property taxes are out of control. We have to rein in the spend at all units of government across the board, whether it's the park district, the county board, whatever, because people can't afford it anymore. When I keep hearing that we're talking about cutting, it doesn't really seem like it's a cut to the levy. It just kind of seems like we're having our reasonable and responsible check and balance on the process, say, hey, we should maybe limit this a little bit while they are still getting their feet underneath them. We don't want to flood the engine per se. And just to bring it back as well, when we were first voting on this last year, or I think it was last year, we had a lot of the groups come in and give public comment, one after the other. We had probably 15 or 20 of them here. Do you guys remember that? I don't remember the context of it, but they came in and I thought it was great to hear all the speakers. But one of my concerns then, and it kind of is coming back to me now, it seems like there was a lot of redundancy in what the scope of each one of those organizations or groups that I assume would be filing applications and grant applications for it, was that, there's just a lot of redundancy, and that was kind of a concern to me. So,
Okay.
And overlap of what the current health department does.
yeah, and a lot of overlap. So, just trying to take into the concerns of people about property taxes, as well as the concerns about people, who want a solution to the mental health crisis. I think this $5 million is a healthy compromise. I don't think the full board, it might be different. So even if we successfully amend it here now, because I still think we have to vote on Vince's amendment, accepting it, and then, moving it forward favorably to the board. I don't know what the status would be at the full board meeting, but at least for today, I have enough to make a decision. So those are my concerns. Just try and limit the redundancy and then bring a check and balance to the property tax issue that we got.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor and motion, okay. Motion to amend to $5 million levy, which would be 0.065. Is there a second? Right. Did they motion and second? Okay, motion and second. All right, so just need a vote. All right, I apologize. Perla? 1 second, I'm working. Okay.
Euquist,
No.
Berkowitz,
Do we have a second vote?
Yes, on it as
Yes.
amended.
Diaz, Logan.
Yes.
Parker,
I'm going to be a no. I agree with everything you said.
Revis.
Yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next. Oh, now we got to vote on as amended. Okay. Thank you for keeping me in line here. So I need a motion for as amended.
Motion as amended, Revis.
Roll call, please.
Euquist,
No.
Berkowitz. Diaz. Logan.
Yes.
Parker.
No.
Revis.
Yes.
Richmond.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, moving down to number 6, other old business, seeing none. Number 8, other new business, seeing none. Public comment? Anybody for public comment? Nothing online? Nobody in the hallway?
New business, transferring appropriations?
No, we did that at the very beginning.
That first.
No. Chair reports or announcements. I'll make sure that we get that PDF available to staff to then distribute. No executive session is needed. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second is.
All right, all in favor? All right, we're adjourned.